what are we doing over and over again with email security that simply is not working?
Trying to think about email security as a, hey, let's stop the spam is not the right approach. And that's part of the problem. Being able to distinguish between spam, a phishing email, and a targeted attack, which exploits a business workflow is incredibly important. I think that distinction a lot of times gets lost. And people try to come up with the same approach of what they used for stopping spam, just, to stop the phishing attacks and to stop BEC attacks. And that's what's not working right now.
What areas we should be looking at that we don't normally look at when we're dealing with, managing our own mail server?
The fundamental approach is to think about email security as a firewall problem. I think the challenge was that sort of made sense in an on-prem world. But as you think about the cloud world, you now have the ability to access your emails via APIs. Sort of having an approach that says, I can now use those APIs to understand what's really happening inside of my email infrastructure, sort of building the baselines for what's acceptable behavior and what's not acceptable can be done right now. Let's leverage the APIs that are available to us in the cloud to be able to reimagine what email security means for us.
Unfortunately, there is a ton of historical email. So there's a lot of source to go to for that. I think the challenge with AI really is, in the end, it's still only as smart as the algorithms that are programmed into it. Emails get through and they get to your recipients. And so training the smartest intelligence, which maybe this is a bad idea, rely on the smartest, most intelligent part of that chain, which is the human being in the chair.
This comes from Joanne Grant. Looking for advice for when email may contain sensitive information. Are there good strategies or tools to identify emails that should be deleted because of their risky content?
In healthcare, we're using DLP for outbound, but we also have the option of using it for inbound. And we can quarantine it and put it into a folder that where we think it needs to be treated specially. The challenge with looking for sensitive information is, how do you define it? In healthcare, it's pretty easy, right? You're looking for member record numbers. You're looking for various insurance IDs, social security numbers. If you're looking for corporate intellectual property, that's a lot more difficult to look for. In that case, again, it comes down to the most intelligent portion of this chain, which is the person in the seat, and ensuring that they understand what to do with their data.
Welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
All right, I've got two bad ideas. Make it like Snapchat, where emails are automatically deleted after a 10-second viewing.
I mean, think of the cost savings just in terms of storage, right? And then also, if you get attacked once with a virus on that email, it can't attack you a second time because you're not going to be able to open the email a second time. I'm all for this.
I mean, just purely from a productivity perspective, it forces everybody to write more in a more pithy way. It's like, you got to write it in one line. What could be a meeting now just turned into a one-liner instead of an email?
It gives the intern vast exposure to the company, especially corporate secrets, which, is really helpful for an intern to have.
Think of the education.
Yeah, exactly. And the time savings for everyone else.
I think, opening up those links, following through that, falling for those scams, you just have to make sure that the intern has, absolutely no ability to make payments, and you're fine.
We have one question that just came in here from Fred Grun, and he asks, why didn't digital signatures take off? And then second, let's just say we all had digital signatures. Could that solve all these problems? And would Armorblox be out of business as a result?
Yeah, obviously. This was something that the DMARC and the DKIM standards try to solve for it by saying, hey, listen, the domain has the root of trust. The inherent assumption was that domains would be purchased using credit cards, which means you actually have a person associated with that. Turns out you could start purchasing domains using Bitcoins, and poof, all of a sudden, this wasn't really a realistic situation anymore. The challenge is managing these signatures is a huge problem. So if we decided that one fine day we woke up and everybody had digital signatures, Armorblox would be in the business of making that part of it incredibly effective from a UX perspective, because that's how we would solve that part of the problem.
We're not doing enough. And, my key to this is I just want to be a little more secure today than I was yesterday. We learned from the pandemic that the thing our mothers taught us, wash your hands, use good hygiene, is true. And it's the same in our email enterprise. And if you think it's not your problem, it really is. And if you don't think it is your problem, you really need to go look at it.